Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jennifer Bloome, host of Soul Wisdom Abundance, Create Wealth Through Spiritual Health. And I have all the feels today. I'm excited, delighted, honored, all of that you all are here to share this time with myself and my guest, learning how to do money in a new way. And for those of you who might be new to the podcast and new to me, let me just say briefly what it is that I specialize in. So, my work here on this planet is really to help you remember, reawaken, and heal your sacred money relationship. And when you're able to work within that relationship, you can have lasting peace and abundance. And at least it's a little bit easier to have lasting peace and abundance. And the basis of that work is to identify your sacred partnership with money languages. These are energies that you brought with you from the divine to support you in your relationship with your money. So you're actually able to work with your soul directly to be in relationship with money. Now, we don't always know our relationship, and we're not always conscious in our relationship. And when that happens, we sort of accidentally begin to do all our experiences with money out of our previous experiences, our money wounds, the pain, the shame that we all carry around. And when we do that, it creates a lot of trauma. It creates a lot of disease, actually, with money. Now, if you are new to the idea of money wounds, let me just say a little bit about this. Um, Money is something that we have an experience with almost from our first breath on this planet. And in fact, I would say that it's before that. We as babies, when we are in utero, we feel our mother's emotions. Of course, we can't put any names to it. We don't understand what it is. But when there's stress and strain, we feel that as a baby. And that also creates changes in the architecture of our brain. So if our mothers, our parents are having stress and strain around money, that is something that's going to impact us before we even take our first breath. And then, of course, we come to the planet and, we have parents, we have media, we have all kinds of things that we interact with and that give us a history of money. And we sort of accidentally make decisions about who we are and who we are with money. And if we don't deal with those decisions, even if they're no longer accurate, they can color our money world in lots of painful ways. So what do we do with it, right? That's a lot. That's pretty heavy. So what do we what do we do with it? Of course, the soul money relationship is one piece of the puzzle, but there are lots of other pieces to the puzzle, and that's why I am delighted to have my guest here today because she has a wealth of information. Pardon the pun. Just sort of slipped out to add to this conversation. So let me introduce you to Barbara Huson. You may also know her as Barbara Stanny. That's something that she can share with us if she'd like later. But she is a financial therapist. She is a teacher and a wealth coach. And she has a really just a wealth of experience. She is a best-selling author. She is the author of 6 different books. Overcoming Under Earning is one of my favorites. And then, of course, coming out in a couple of days is her brand new book, which is called Rewire for Health. I'm sorry, Rewire for Wealth. 3 steps any woman can take to program her brain for financial success. And I was lucky enough to get a copy. And you can tell from all of my tabs that I really enjoyed it. So we have a lot to talk about. Barbara, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks for having me. And I can't tell you how much I love to sing those tabs.
Yeah.
It made my day.
Yeah, I'm a scholar at heart, and I know you've done a ton
Yeah.
of research, so I don't know, maybe you're a tab person too, tabs and pens, they're my friends. Oh goodness. So, all right, we could talk. There's so much that we could talk about. But you know what? I'd love to start with you helping the listeners understand a little bit about your approach, because one of the things that I really love about your work is that you bring together a lot of different modalities, right? You bring together an understanding of financial the finances in general, psychology, spirituality, and of course, with this book, you're adding in neuroscience. So, can you start by just sharing a little bit about your approach and how you stepped into this work?
So yeah, so let me go back because honestly, my money story, Jennifer, is not one that would have put me here talking to you. I had to drastically change it. So I was born in a wealthy family. And the only advice my father, who founded H&R Block, he was the R, the only advice he ever gave me about money was don't worry,
Ah,
which I thought was wonderful advice. I
sure.
didn't want to worry. I just wanted to spend it. And I married a man who was a stockbroker, so he was perfect. But what I found out very early in our marriage is that he was a compulsive gambler.
Oh,
And
yes.
over the course of our 15 years that we were together, every year I'd find out he gambled all this money of my inheritance away. And here's the insane part, I continued to let him manage it because that's
Mm,
how terrified I was and so intimidated by finances. And I was raised, my story, my parents told me making and managing money is a man's job. And that was true for me. And so finally, after 15 years, we got a divorce, but that wasn't my job, making or managing money. So I decided money's not my thing. I don't want to deal with money. Well, I have this theory that if you don't deal with your money will deal with you. And in the next year, I got tax bills for way over $1 million. It was like closer to
mm.
two. I did not have anywhere close to $1 million. Oh my God, not even close. My ex had left the country. I was left holding the bag, and my father wouldn't lend me the money. And that's when I knew I had to get smart. So I started reading and I started going to classes. You know what they tell you to do.
Sure. All that education piece, right?
And my eyes would glaze over and my brain would fog up and I just feel terminally stupid. But I had three daughters, young daughters, and one was just a baby. I was not going to raise those girls on the street. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I really didn't. But I swear, I believe when you make a commitment, like a down to your toes, no backdoor commitment, the universe revolves to help you reach your goal. And I was a journalist at the time, working for the San Francisco Business Times. And I got hired for a freelance project to interview women who were smart with money. And those interviews changed my life. I not only got smart about my money, that was like, I don't know, 30 years ago, but I wrote my first book, Prince Charming Isn't Coming, How Women Get Smart About Money. And suddenly I had this whole new career. I was traveling all over the country, but I couldn't make money. So I interviewed women who made lots of money, and I was a chronic under earner. And I started making six figures before I even finished writing my next book, Secrets of Six
Mm,
Figure Women. And then I wanted to see if I could teach others what I was learning. And I wrote Overcoming Under Earning. And then my next book, which was my last book, I have a couple of others. And then my next book, my last book, which was called Sacred Success, A Course in Financial Miracles, is when I came out of the closet, finally, out of my spiritual closet, and talked about what a key part spirituality played in my healing.
mhm.
As, yes, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So I would say that money was a teacher for you. Would you agree?
Oh, money was definitely my teacher. And I just wasn't ready to learn till I was in my 40s.
Well, how can we only know what we know when we know it, right? When things get painful enough, right? And we've either not seen it or ignored it or whatever for long enough, the universe sends two by fours and then they get a little bit bigger and a little bit
And
bigger,
and
right?
and I think that's one of the things that drives me to do what I do. And I've been doing this for 25 years, is that research shows that most women do not get serious about making or managing money until they hit a crisis, until they lose a spouse, they lose a job, they're on the brink of retirement, which is the first worst time to start. Worst time.
Right, right. So I was going to save this a little bit till later, but now that since we're talking about it right now, so what is it, do you think it is about women that create the difference
So I
between
believe,
us? Hmm.
and I absolutely believe that women's difficulties with money has little, if anything, to do with money per se. It has everything to do with our fear of or ambivalence about power. because I think we don't understand power from a feminine perspective. And I define a powerful woman as someone who knows who she is, who knows who she wants, and expresses that in the world unapologetically. So essentially, our fear of power is our fear of becoming who we truly are, of expressing our truth and living our truth. And instead, we water ourselves down so we don't make waves.
Right, right. Yeah, be good, right? Be the good girl. Be quiet, sit in the corner. Don't hassle the real people. And the other piece of that too is I was listening to a Brene Brown podcast not too long ago, and she was talking about the model of power over. And I think that a lot of women are very concerned about wielding power in a way that's going to hurt somebody else.
So, men, the patriarchy, men in general, they define power as power over.
Right.
But women, our true nature is power with. And we find power through collaboration. So I don't that's part of my message is power is not power over for women. And I think that is part of that's what I'm believing is that the shifting paradigm we're in. All this upset is really shifting the paradigm from power over to power with.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And what I think is really interesting is that if we can start viewing money as a relationship, we really can step into that new paradigm with a lot more grace. Because
So
because I think that we tend to the people that I mean, and I'm speaking from experience myself. I had enough history with money to go through, end up with a bankruptcy, and that was when the 2x4 hit me, and I started in a new way learning about money. But I think that, we accidentally think about sort of money having the power, that money is the entity that has all the power in this relationship, and that just isn't true.
so I believe I perceive money as you can have a legendary love affair. It can be the
Mm,
best lover ever because all money wants is to serve you and support you for the rest of your life. And
yes.
all it wants in return is to be appreciated and taken care of. And
Right.
when we can appreciate and take care of money, it will support us and serve us for the rest of our life.
Yeah, not too many people in our lives can we say that about, right? That only wants the best at heart and is willing to support us in whatever way we ask, right? So we might
Well,
as well dive into it.
I have made the transition to where everybody in my life now is here to serve me and support me. And those who aren't, and there are, but they're not in my life.
Well, and sounds to me like you've done your work with power then, right?
I
You've
have,
decided
I
your
have
own
done
power.
my work a
Yes, you.
lot,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot with
Beautiful.
power, with fear, with insecurity, with a lot of things. And I think that's it. So, what I feel like is money magnifies whatever we have going on. Money doesn't cause us shame. I believe money magnifies the shame we have. Money magnifies the insecurity we're carrying around for other areas because whatever is going on with money is going on in other areas of your life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it doesn't, yeah, because money really is neutral, right? I mean, it's just, all it is currency. And
I use the example. You can take $100 bill and you can put it on the floor. That $100 bill can't shoot a gun and it can't bandage a wound. It does nothing. It is what you do with it
that's right.
that gives
Right.
it its power.
Yeah, and I think there's a number of people that I too talk to who the stumbling block is if I have the money that I want, something it's going to change me, right? It's going to do something to my character. I'm going to accidentally end up being like all these people that I see that are doing horrible things with their money. And so I'm not, I don't want it. Of
But
course,
but
that's the
but
unconscious thought, but that is
but
so
you
untrue.
notice how because the problem is the belief, the prominent belief is that money is bad and the people who have it are bad. If you could just shift your focus and look at the people who have money, who are doing amazing,
Right.
wonderful, credible things in this world. So it's however you want to see it.
Right, and it speaks to what you're talking about in rewiring your brain, right? Our brains are only going to give us evidence of what we believe. So if we believe that money is bad, that's what's going to keep getting fed to us. We're going to hear the story on the radio, walk through the store at just the right time to hear the story on the TV about the terrible thing that happened, as opposed to if we have this underlying belief that money is divinity, it's love, it's neutral, then we get that. Those are the stories that we begin to hear, and we can begin to really create a change in focus. Okay, so let me ask you a new question here. So one of the things that we want to talk about today, or what I want to talk about today, is wealth. And this idea, because I think a lot of people say, I want to be wealthy, and yet can't even say what that means. Maybe it's a dollar figure, but when asked why that dollar figure, they can't even quite give it. So tell me, what is your definition of wealthy?
So I'm going to give you a little longer story than just my definition. So
Yes.
there's three levels of financial development. There's survival, stability, and wealth. Survival is not enough, stability is just enough, and wealth is more than enough. And that's not about a dollar amount, but it's more than that. Wealth is that you have more than enough, and you know it. And you know it. I know people, many people come to me who have millions, and they feel financially insecure. I know people who have far less, but they feel bountiful.
Yeah.
So wealth means you have more than enough, and you know it.
Yeah. So it's really more of a mindset than it is any other category of money in any way.
It's a mindset that includes some practicalities, that you have disposable income, that you have money set aside for emergencies, that you are not debting, that you are, if you are in debt, you are paying off your debt, that you have that you have enough money to lead the life you want on your own terms.
And that's why I like the addition of spirituality to this, because we get to say, I not only am I divinity, but I'm unique divinity. And I get to decide what I want. I don't have to follow anybody else's rules or definitions of what wealth is. I mean, other than the practicalities, right? That's important. But isn't it going to be much more enjoyable if I'm following what it is that I want from money than working hard to meet somebody else's external definition?
I believe that, very good. I believe that money is both a practical process and a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
So there are certain rules of wealth. There's only four. There's four rules of wealth you need to follow. You spend less, you save more, you invest wisely, and you give generously. In that order. Because giving generously without spending less, saving more, and investing wisely is always an act of self-sabotage. Because not only are you jeopardizing your own future security, but you're diminishing the impact you can make with your money. And wealth is where the fun is and the power is. Wealth is, it's not just amassing money for its own sake. It's how we can use our money to make a difference. And that to me is the spiritual part. You follow the practical steps so that you can do what your God put you on this earth to do. As one of my favorite quotes is from Michael Beckwith, who's the lead Agape.
Mm-hmm.
He said, how can you be the light of the world if you can't pay your light bills? And I don't want to help women just pay their light bills. I want to help them become the light of the world.
Yeah, beautiful.
And never in our history has it been more important for women to step into their power, step up to the plate, and really step into themselves as a light. Really let the light shine.
Our world is in need of that. We don't need to follow that road particularly in this conversation, but I think leaving it at saying there's a lot of healing that this world is ready for, and women
and that means
lead it.
Each of us must do our own healing.
That's yes. Okay, so that actually leads me into the next question that I wanted to ask you. So in Rewire for Wealth, in a number of other ways, you talk about mind training. And we've already talked about how the power of beliefs and how that can change how we experience money. But I'm curious how you would say mind training is different than willpower.
Oh, so let me suggest there's a lot of talk about mind training, but it's not enough just to train your mind. That's what I realized when I discovered neuroscience 6 years ago. So let me just briefly explain that our brain, which is a physical organ in our body, which is a source of chemical, electrical impulses, our brain controls our behavior. Everything we do, inhaling, exhaling, spending, saving, everything we do is controlled by our brain. Our brain is shaped by our mind. And our mind is a non-physical entity, the source of our thoughts and feelings. And what neuroscience has shown me is that what flows through the mind is what shapes the brain. So if you want to change your behavior, you must change your thoughts and feelings in order to rewire your brain and start weakening the old neural pathways that say there's never enough or money is bad, and strengthen the new neural pathways that say whatever you want. Because believe you can, believe you can't, either way you'll be right.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and those neural pathways can be really strong. You think
Oh,
about the example I give, and of course I'm getting too old really to use this example, but if you think about a record, the vinyl record and the needle, when you practice a thought over and over and over again, you wear a groove, right? You're not going to be able to
perfect.
move forward in the song, right? So it takes a lot sometimes to
No,
reorganize.
not sometimes. Not sometimes. What
Yes.
you said was really good, but it's sometimes,
Uh,
it's always.
Yeah,
Those neural pathways always, always are like a vacuum cleaner that want to suck you back in.
yes.
The brain doesn't want to change. It takes massive effort. It takes a focused intention to do it.
It
Yes, you are so right.
Yeah, it really does. And so, words get thrown around like willpower. And I guess I just want to make sure that people understand that we're not talking about, oh, the willpower to not eat a cookie after dinner, or, I think that people and myself have had misunderstandings, right? It's not about getting so strong that I can continually overwhelm a thought. It's literally restructuring the mind. That's what you're talking about, right? We're not
Right.
talking about just effort, 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 effort. Yes, it takes effort to get there, but it's for a purpose, an end result.
It's not a white knuckled approach,
Yeah,
because when you do the white knuckled approach, I'm not going to eat that cookie. I'm not going to eat that cookie. I'm not going to spend money on those shoes. I'm not going to do this. I am
right.
going to do this. What happens is it's so easy to flip back because willpower doesn't work. It just doesn't overextended time. Uh, so what you need to do is actually rewire your brain, which is it's a very simple process. It's very simple, but it just takes, as you said, Jennifer, it takes massive effort. So if you want, I can tell you the 3 steps to rewire your brain.
I would love it. Let's get into it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So this took me years to get to this, years of playing around and working on myself. So basically, there's 3 steps to rewire your brain. I'm going to say them quickly, then I'll explain them. Those 3 steps are recognize, reframe, and respond differently. So recognize means recognizing or observing the negative thoughts in your head. Observing them, but observing them in a certain way. Observing the thoughts with curiosity, not criticism or judgment. So let's say, okay, so every book I've ever written, half the projects I do, what goes through my head is I don't have what it takes. I don't have what it takes. So I'm writing this new book, Rewire for Wealth. And my voice, my head's telling me, you don't have what it takes. You can't do that. And always before I kind of powered through. This time I said, wait a minute. I'm teaching this stuff. I need to learn it. So I said, I'm going to rewire that belief. So I would be writing, you don't have what it takes. You're a crappy writer. I would say, thank you for sharing. And then I'd recognize, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? That separates you from your thoughts. Isn't that interesting? With curiosity, I am having a thought about not having what it takes. And I am having a thought further separates you from that thought because the thought isn't true. It's just a thought. So second, you first you recognize, second you reframe, you see it differently.
Okay, I'm gonna you know what? I'm gonna pause you right here just for a second because we're gonna have to take a break in just a few moments. So in terms of, let me just ask you a quick question here about recognition. So how do you begin to recognize that thought as someone you don't want?
Anything that doesn't feel good. Any
Yeah.
thought that doesn't feel good is not a thought that you're supposed to have.
Love that.
Yeah.
No, I love that because I think that well, we can talk about this on the other side of the break. I think that we don't let ourselves have enough joy, quite honestly. And we think we have to live with beating ourselves up. That's an old thought, right?
So anywhere that's how you know when you're giving your power away.
Yes. Oh,
Whenever
yes.
you're not happy. Whenever you're not happy, it's
Oh,
because you're giving your power away.
okay. Taking my own note on that. All right, so let's pause for just a second. And you are listening to Soul Wisdom Abundance on Transformation Talk Radio. I am Jennifer Bloome, and we will be back in just a few moments. So welcome back to Soul Wisdom Abundance. I'm Jennifer Bloome, and I am here with my guest, Barbara Huson. And we were just in the middle of a really juicy part of the conversation. So you were telling us, Barbara, the 3 steps to rewiring. But you know what? I want to pause for just a second because I want to make sure that people know where to find you and to find more information about the work that you bring to the world. So can you share what the best way is to learn more about your resources?
Yeah, the best way is to go to my website, Barbara-Huson, Barbara-Huson, Huson. And there's just a whole lot of stuff on there.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, fantastic. All right. So we talked about the first step of rewiring, which was all about recognition. And you shared with us that amazing thought that anytime that you are not happy, it's a clue. You're giving that power away.
So the important thing about recognizing, observing, because we all know our negative thoughts, but observing not with criticism, not with judgment, but with curiosity. This is really critical. Observe with curiosity. Isn't that interesting? I'm having a thought about there's not enough. I'm having a thought about being stupid. Or mine is I'm having a thought I don't have what it takes. So you recognize that thought without judgment, because the judgment is what digs that neural pathway. You just recognize it with curiosity. And the second step is you reframe it. So there are only 2 emotions. Everything boils down to 2 emotions, fear or love. And our negative, unhealthy emotions are always fear-based. And reframe, there's a lesson in A Course of Miracles that always helps me reframe. It's above all, how can I see this differently? And A Course in Miracles, I don't know if you know the Course in Miracles, it's a sacred.
Yep.
And it always says a miracle, it defines a miracle as a shift in perception. So when you reframe, this is your beginning of creating financial miracles. And reframe means how do you just see it differently, seeing it through the eyes of love. So take me. So I had this thing, I don't have what it takes, and I'm writing my book like that. And then I thought, okay, I see that. I recognize it. Isn't that interesting? How can I see this differently? And for me, what I did, there's many ways to reframe, but I go, oh, I can handle this. Now, did I believe I could handle it? No, I did not believe it. Even though I had written 7 books before this,
right.
I still didn't believe it, but you don't have to believe the reframe. You just have to repeat it often enough that it starts weakening the neural pathway that says you don't have what it takes, and it starts strengthening the pathway that says, I can handle this. But then it's not enough just to change your mindset. All the stuff about mindset And I'm a big believer in it. But it's not what I realize, it's not enough. The third step is you need to respond differently.
Yeah.
You need to do what that feels uncomfortable. You need to do what doesn't feel like you. You need to do, if your brain says, no, don't do that, it's not you, that's exactly what you need to go. Exactly what you need to do. So it's responding differently. The first two, recognizing and reframing, is what sets you up. But the rewiring happens when you respond differently over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's the image that I have for that is you're out in the Amazon jungle and you've got your machete and you're hacking away, right? You've got a new path, and that other path looks really, really inviting because you could just walk. It'd be so easy. Like, but no, wait a minute. I know it's at the end of that road. I don't feel enough. I feel where I'd feel like I don't deserve to have what I want. That's no longer true. But here I am with my machete, and I'm just going to keep hacking it out until that pathway is as familiar as the other one.
Beautiful.
Right. So, okay. So doing something over and over and over brings up the word motivation. And I'm curious if you can, and this is a little bit of a selfish question because I really respond to the word inspiration. Motivation feels like sort of this outward force, but inspiration feels like I'm being drawn to it. Can you talk a little bit about what we need to have in order to have the fortitude to keep responding differently?
So you need to be motivated. That means you really want to do it.
Yeah.
And you need to be even just, if not more important, you need to be committed. You need to be committed. Like, I'm willing to walk through fire to make this happen. Because if you're not, one, motivated or inspired, I like that. If you're not inspired, and if you're not committed, then when resistance comes up, which it always does,
Yeah.
you'll stop. You'll just stop because this is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of work at the beginning, and then it gets easier and easier until all of a sudden what you're trying to rewire actually is your new normal, is your new belief. And you kind of don't know when that actually happens.
Right, right. Can you say a little bit more about resistance? As I think that's something that, especially in spiritual circles, it gets thrown around a lot. Can you say a little bit more about what you mean by resistance and what that might look like when somebody's experiencing it?
Yes, resistance, all resistance is internal conflict. A part of you wants to, and a part of you doesn't.
Mm,
So resistance is really a psychological term for resolving conflict. And so it's always, there's a part of us, it's like the story of the a butterfly flies overhead and two caterpillars are walking along. And one caterpillar says, oh, that's so cool. And the other caterpillar says, you'll never get me up in that thing.
mm,
So it's like part of us wants to fly, a
right.
part of us is scared to death.
Yeah.
And so all the work I do with my clients, all the work, it really boils down to getting them past their resistance because part of them is scared. And if you figure our brains were designed millions and millions of years ago for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is survival, to keep us
Right.
safe and make sure. So whenever we feel a threat, whenever we feel even the tiniest threat, whenever we perceive something as a threat, even if it's not, our thinking logical brain shuts down and we go into fight, flight, freeze. And so resistance is calming the part that doesn't, exploring the part that doesn't want to, really looking at that and strengthening the neural pathway that is probably very weak, if non-existent, starting to strengthen that. And really, the key to rewiring is attention. Whatever you put your attention on regularly gets wired in your brain.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to take us back just a minute too, because one of the things that you say at the beginning of the book is about you talk about Course in Miracles, and you talk about the law of cause and effect. Can you speak to that here?
Yes. So the Course in Miracles, I discovered the Course in Miracles 42 years ago. And that is what got me through my financial crisis. And that is what got me to where I am today. And okay, I got sidetracked because I get so excited with just the word Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your question was what?
It's about the law of cause and effect.
Oh yeah. So to the world, something out there is a cause. Somebody gets mad at you and you get scared. Somebody says something wrong, you get unhappy. Spiritually, quantum physics says nothing out there makes you happy or sad. It is only your thoughts about it. So the law of cause and effect, nothing out there, it is your thoughts. It is your perception that creates your reality. So you want to change your reality? You change your thoughts, you change your feelings. You do it often enough that those neural pathways get rewired.
And so then there's that beautiful weaving, right, of spirituality and science. And that, but it also speaks to our responsibility. And it comes to responsibility with money as well. So I've got like 12 thoughts that I want to say all at once. So let me just take them one at a time. So if we're responsible for our own reactions, then we have so much more power. And once we begin to understand that even with money, we get to respond internally, we get to make those choices, it gives us even more ability to reclaim that power that we have with money.
I define responsibility as the ability to respond in a healthy way. And so taking responsibility for money means following the rules of money. Spend less, save more, invest wisely, give generously, in that order. So yes, it is our responsibility. And what I love in the Course in Miracles that was a huge watershed moment for me, was really reading that everything that happens to us is done by us. The Course says, you are doing this unto yourself. And when I was so mad at my husband for years for gambling my money away. He was the bad guy. He was the problem, until the Course reminded me, wait, you are doing this unto yourself. I thought, holy moly, I'm the one who gave him the keys to the kingdom. I'm the one who let him manage the money and make all the decisions. He wasn't doing it to me. I was doing it to me. And it wasn't until I got that my healing shifted.
Right. And then we get to remember what you've already shared. We are wired for safety, right? We are trying very hard to stay safe. We're trying to follow the rules that we think that we knew to feel safe. And then we get to realize, as you share, there's two voices that we get to listen to. We either get to listen to the voice of ego, right? That is bound and determined to keep us safe, doing the same thing over and over and over again, because that's what it defines as safety. Or we get to start listening to our own soul.
But let me suggest that our ego is not bad.
No,
our ego,
no, you're right. You're right.
Our ego learned when we were very young how to survive.
Yeah.
It learned how to get attention, approval, and love. Because to a child, to get attention, approval, and love is how we survive. Take that away, and a child's survival is at stake. So we learned how to get attention. I learned how to get attention by not talking about money. You don't talk about money. That was a very rule in my house. So we learn very early. But what helps us survive as a child will suffocate us as an adult. So we need to learn, as you were saying, we need to learn new survival techniques so that we thrive and not just survive.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, right. And we deserve to thrive. Every one of us deserves to thrive.
That's why God put us on this earth.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, it is almost our responsibility as a spiritual seeker to find ways to thrive, to do what God put us here to do.
Yes. Yes. Oh, so good. All right. So as we've got maybe 5 minutes or so left. So there's a lot of information that we have shared here. If you were to give someone 3 tips to get started, what would you say? What would be your advice? Three simple things that somebody can start to do.
So this is what I did when I was in my financial fog. And this is what I taught my mother to do when she was in her financial fog. And she's very, very good now, 93 years old. She's got it going. 3 steps, because it's small steps consistently taken that lead to remarkable results. So you do these 3 steps for, I don't know, a couple months, and you will be amazed how much smarter you are. First, every day, read something about money, even if it's just for 1 minute or two. Read something, even if you just open to the business section of the paper and peruse the headlines. Even if you're standing in line at the supermarket, pick up Money magazine instead of People. Even if you're going to bed at night and you take a financial book and you read one sentence or one paragraph, because it's so much of it is just learning the jargon and the current trends. I call it the Osmosis school of learning. When I interviewed smart women for my first book, I saw how many of them subscribed to the Wall Street Journal. So I subscribed to the Wall Street Journal. That sucker came every day. I didn't even understand anything it said. So I just put the finance part of it on the kitchen counter, and I'd walk by it, and by osmosis, I figure I'd pick something up. Well, it was amazing. I did. So every day, read something about money.
Do you, do you have a favorite, a favorite something to read about money?
Well,
What do you do?
I love the Wall Street Journal. I love all my books. Even if you go online and read the Motley Fool,
Yeah.
uh, Investopedia.com. Just go online and read about anything, just anything that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's not all hype.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So number 2.
Number 2, every week, have a conversation, preferably with someone that knows more than you. I think it's our secrecy and silence that keeps us stuck. And after interviewing these women who were smart, like, I saw how powerful that was. So anybody I would meet who was smart about money, I would say, how did you learn? How did you get smart? What advice was given you? What's the best advice? What advice would you give me? What mistakes did you make? Just pick their brain. And
Yeah.
people are usually really, really great about talking about it. So every day read, every week talk, and every month save. And you don't have to save a lot, but automatically have money shifted from your checking account or your payroll check to a savings account. And because of compounding interest, with the Motley Fool called the snowball effect, that interest earns interest on the interest earns interest, and it really snowballs. It's great. So every day read, every week talk, and every month save.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So let me come back to something that you said in that second tip. You talked about secrecy and silence keeps us stuck. So what is your tip for, because money is one of those things you're not, right? You grew up in a household, you don't talk about money. You don't talk about money, you don't talk about religion, you don't, right? So what is your best tip about demystifying the fact that money shouldn't be kept secret anymore?
It's a belief that was wired in your brain. It is a belief, especially for women. It is simply propaganda. We've been indoctrinated because by staying silent, we stay small and we stay poor. So you can feel the discomfort. You can feel the thought in your head, I shouldn't. You can, oh, isn't that interesting? I'm having a thought that I shouldn't talk about this. I'm going to reframe this. I really am excited to talk about this because that's how I'll learn. And then you start talking about it, and you may feel uncomfortable. You may feel it's wrong. Do it anyway. Because we women need to talk about money.
We sure do. We sure do. So what I'm hearing from you is curiosity, openness, persistence, and habit.
Yes,
Is that reasonable?
that's very reasonable.
Yeah.
That's very reasonable. But let me add one more thing.
Yeah.
And I think this is the most important of all. Beware the words you use. Beware the words that come out your mouth and that flow through your head, because it is the words more than anything that wire your brain, that create your reality. So if you do nothing else, stop putting yourself down, stop saying negative things about that which you want, stop disparaging yourself or money in any way.
And
Do
I
what do what you fear, do what feels uncomfortable. That's how you change.
and I'm going to let that be the last word. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Barbara. I'm so honored that you were here today. I appreciate everything that you have shared with the audience. And I am going to strongly encourage people to take a look at not only your previous books, but this Rewire for Wealth is truly a wealth of information. And again, thank you. I'm delighted that you were here.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
My honor and pleasure. All right, everyone. So we've done it again. We're here at the end of our Soul Wisdom Abundance podcast for today. Thank you for tuning in. And remember, you can listen in on the first and third Friday of every month. And we will be back next time. It's the first part of February, where we're talking about spiritual leadership and money. So that should be a good conversation too. All right, everyone, take good care. And until we meet again, I offer prosperous blessings. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.